Well, before I start, there was a bit of confusion on my title and what I do, so I'll just correct that. I am the CIO for Private Wealth Management, and for those who don't understand private wealth, this is the bank catering for ultra-high net worth individuals. Yeah? So we have a separate technology for that group within the bank. Prior to this, I was the CIO for global banking and transaction banking, and that's basically the payments, that flow across the globe. Just to put it in perspective, we would, on a good day, we would settle $1 trillion in US and $1 trillion euros in Germany. So these are very, very mission-critical systems, not only from a Deutsche perspective, but also from an industry perspective. And you are right. I hold a degree in Bachelor of Arts with English, and I had another subject along with that. That was history. Yeah, so that's my background. But I have been, having said that, I have been in the industry on technology and financial industry for the last 32 years. Mm-hmm. So I started in India. I'm Indian by origin, now I'm Singaporean. I started way back in '78, and I started in operations group, and I was doing FX money market operations there. That's the time when the Reserve Bank of India, and that's the central bank MAS equivalent in India, they decided to computerize the FX operations, because that was the most difficult, part of the operations in those days. And for some reason, I was cherry-picked and said, okay, Sunila, you're going to do technology from tomorrow. I mean, having literature as my, as my graduating paper and then getting into this was quite interesting. But, as I moved into it, and I started to learn I wrote my first of my COBOL programs and all of this, I started to like it because it's actually very, very logical. What you do, and if you are a logical person, irrespective of what background or what studies you've done, you can pick it up pretty fast. So I'm not that novice anymore in technology. It's been 28 good years that I've been doing it, predominantly in financial industry all the way. I mean, I wouldn't get into all these jargons here with all these young people around. To be very honest, I was very dumb. I didn't realize what the hell was happening to me. So they said technology is the way to go forward. I said, okay, fine, let's do that. And interestingly, I mean, it was good times. India didn't have Unix boxes. The first of the 12 boxes arrived in those days. And I had one whole Unix box to myself. So I played with it. And the production was lying under my desk in this Unix box, and I did what I wanted. And that's how I picked it up. If you ask me, and I'm normally very, very, I get very personal when I talk about these things, but if you ask me, if you formally want to ask me, I would give you a better story than this.
Okay. So I could then conclude that if our student, if they have an interest and they have the motivation, they could succeed in financial services, tech, and ops.
Sure, there's nothing great about this, right? It's technology, and I don't think there's anything great in technology. I don't think there's anything great in financial industry. The one thing that I would advise, and which helped me good during all these years that I worked, was it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of trial and error, but well, you go into organizations but tolerate, that you goof up at times, and I have goofed up as well. So you do that, but if you're focused about something, you should go towards that. The major concern that I see, and it's happened with my colleagues, with my friends, with my peers from the past, is you start to lose focus on that. And luckily for me, I maintained it. I still do. I still look forward to it.
Okay, my passion had been to build rather than to sell. Therefore, I chose to stay in the IT after graduating from computer science. So personally, I I gained a lot of satisfaction learning the business, building systems and seeing them being deployed to help the business offer more products and services, reduce manual processes, and also operational risks associated. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I found that in the banking sectors, there are a wide ranging of areas that one can really learn and be exposed to. In fact, since I joined the banking sector, IT, there has never been a dull moment. And I believe for those of you who have been in financial services or tech or O, you probably feel the same as well. Right? Personally, I don't really face that. Not in my career so far. I do not see any difference in terms of career path for female executives. In fact, in my current workplace, we do actually recognize and encourage and welcome different perspectives from employees coming from different backgrounds, regardless of gender or age or nationality.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, I came to Singapore and as a project manager in IT, and I have done a lot of projects in varied industries. And then on, we have a lot of investments back in India in the power sector. So, and then due to the policies that have developed between Singapore and India, in 2004, or to be more precise, 2003, we decided to have our investment holding company back in Singapore. Me being in Singapore, I was shouldered to take over the investment holding company by my team back in India. So that really developed the zeal in me to understand more on finance. Being totally a technocrat, finance was something a bit new for me. And then my boss and my guide, whoever, is all in one for me. He said, "That's no rocket science. I know you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Let's do it." Then I started off working on it. What is investment holding? What's investment banking? And then what are the procedures? How do I try to make my place in there? And then I started off. As I was going through, I came across this beautiful course overnight. And then I felt this can actually bridge the gap, what I'm facing, the vacuum, what I'm feeling. And that will help me out to make my stand in the industry. And that really did. I must say that it really did. And thanks to SMU and thanks to my professors and my co-students who really made me into a different sphere as such, which made me make a stand and be proud in my organization that I was one of the few who happened to close a $400 million deal with some private equity partners, and I was the one who was leading the show. And I had now around a $4 billion worth project back in India, and then I feel very proud to whatever I could achieve as of today. To be very, very specific, IT is entirely different in India compared to the other industries. Mm-hmm. Like if you take banking, if you take insurance, if you take any other thing, you still see to an extent the imbalance of the ratio between the gender. But coming to IT is actually overwhelmed with females. As Liu Ping was mentioning, our ratio was always more on the feminine side compared to the masculine side. So most of my students whom I see are also in a very great ratio on the feminine side rather than on the masculine side. Not really, because I have a lot to do in my own organization. I do have a lot of more in the financial side that I got to take care as we are going ahead, because in the coming years we are planning for an IPO, and then my interactions with the financial institutions is going to increase, and my scope of work is going to increase. And then the people who I will be leading more on the financial front are going to increase with time to what I'm doing right now.
Actually, I'm very glad to hear that. What it means is that, hey, our program is not only for financial services, tech and ops people. People that are outside of financial services will find very, how should I say, enriching. They can leverage on what they study in the program and excel in their career. And I'm glad to hear that.
Exactly, Prof. Basically, one specific thing what I would like to add here is when I never joined the course, we were evaluating a company for 3 over years. All I had to do was just rely on the evaluator. And then whatever he says, I go and listen as an owner of the organization. But after the course, everything what he talks, I always was shooting him with parameters. And then one thing he was asking me is, how come there's a lot of difference to last year to this year? And then I said, the credit goes to my course. So I was able to analyze and understand it all the more, which I think is really very helpful as far as personally I am concerned.
Career opportunities in tech and ops are plenty and wide-ranging. For instance, on the technology side, one can choose to excel in managerial position and head one of the IT departments, or one can choose to excel in project management and eventually become a project director, or be a specialist in a particular technical domain such as network specialist. And of course, in the operations side, there are so many domains area that one can choose to, for instance, card operations, treasury operations, investment operations, trade operations. So there's just so many areas that one can choose to learn and progress on.
Professor, it's a teaser when you ask me such things, right? Because I firmly believe that the focus should not be what roles women can take on. The focus should be on what roles are available, and if you believe in inclusiveness of the female, gender, then all roles are available for them. So there's no hard, fast rule that this is the role that the woman should take on. I mean, personally, I broke the barriers when I did what I did at my times, and I would encourage everyone, forget about the gender. If you like something, go for it, yeah? And just, sorry, slightly deviation from the topic. I mean, since you talked about the ratio of women in this industry. I represent the technology and operations within the diversity groups within Deutsche Bank, and interestingly on Friday we had, along with Shell, we had commissioned for a study, and that study is available on the website. You can go and look at it. And I was again doing a panel there, and it was absolutely pitiable to see the ratio of women in the workforce. We are not talking about financial and technology, we are talking about workforce. And interestingly, across the APAC region, the country that has most women representation is Malaysia. And the one with the worst, to Jaya, your point, is India. Yeah, we're talking about full workforce, and this is not something that I dig up here. It's available on the website. Go have a look at it. And these are all the 21 MNCs which have been, interviewed on that. And when you start to look at the actual problem where it comes from schools. How many go down into the schools, how many come to institutes like this, and how many of them survive after this to get into the workforce. But if my only advice is, if you do survive and if you do get on to the workforce, don't be, caged for anything. Just go ahead and do what you want to do.
Yeah, this is quite a common challenge for women that have to work late. And I think in T and O areas, we do often need to work quite late. But for company that's actually looked into such issues and provide support will actually help a lot. For instance, making sure either there's bus arrangement or even providing, tied up with a taxi company to have more frequent trips along the areas will help as well. And to a certain extent, I think for women, because basically we are better at in terms of organizing family life and also care of the elderly or infants, women tend to have the need also to take breaks from work. So it's not just about working late. Sometimes you may not even have the ability to, fulfill some of your job obligation. So for companies that are able to provide flexible working arrangement, working from home or part-time arrangement, that will help a lot to retain the female executives as well.
I want to share an experience that I had when I was in MAS. MAS have a lot of female among our employees. And in one of our surveys, they claimed that the reason MAS attracted them was because of we have a childcare center right in the same building. Do you think that it's true that if we have company have that or is near to a childcare center, that would help attract more women to join the company?
I think that is certainly true because, in fact, it's the same as OCBC. We do have on-site childcare support as well, where we tie up with the little schoolhouse, such that staff can easily leave their kids with the childcare center, and also they will offer a preferential rate. So these are convenience. And on top of that, providing nursing rooms, facilities, providing child leave, family leave support, all these actually do help a lot, and that is part and parcel of our HR policies as well.
I think companies have no options left now. You're talking about more than around 50% of the world population being female, and you want to have single-digit representation of them inside the organization. Just doesn't work. Yeah, you'll dry out of the workforce very fast. On a lighter note, yeah. So I personally believe this gender diversity has become a big, huge topic across the MNCs these days. If you look at what the United Nations would prescribe, they would, I hope they don't come up with a guideline or, which they would push it around to all countries. But as I was mentioning last week when I was talking in the panel, they said that they're expecting 30% on the board, of female representation. So that's pretty high number. Compared to what we have today. I mean, unfortunately, if you look at, and there are statistics, sorry, I didn't bring them along, but there are single-digit statistics which would prove that women representation is not there on the board. when I talk about these topics, I always make sure that I say I'm not a feminist. Yeah, I'm a normal, working woman who want to ensure that, there's a place for women in the workforce. So that if that's nailed down, then I could talk about it.
Sure.
So, and if you start to look at countries, including Singapore, a couple of weeks back there was a comment that we have to encourage more women force inside the corporates and the MNCs is the same. You look at Germany, you look at France, you look at US, you look at UK. These are slowly seeping in, and these organizations are trying to, just short of quota, and I would hate to have a quota system, just because you want to, increase the female, percentage inside the organization. So I'll hate that. But just short of that, they're doing just about everything now. And I would see more and more emphasis on this topic coming in the next 1 or 2 years. Having said that, you asked me why should there be women, or why should we have women representation? I said half the population is female, so we should have more women candidates inside. But besides that, I mean, there is a different character or personality or genes that the females bring to the forum. Yeah, and this is interesting, especially when you even talk about financial industry, because in financial industry, if you talk about the front office where you're interacting with the clients, you need to show care, you need to show concern, you need to be diligent about it, you need to be absolutely thoughtful about what you're saying, you need to own those messages that are going out. And this is a typical trait that the female has. This comes very natural to a female. Yeah, and I'm not condemning my male counterparts, but I'm just saying this is a very natural trait that females have. And why would an organization not exploit these traits? Yeah, which comes so uniquely. And all they need to do is to reach out and do it. And there are certain, surroundings or environmental changes these organizations have to do. And I'm glad OCBC has some kind of a child care associated with that. I mean, in Deutsche, we don't have that, but we have flexi hours. We have a whole lot of schemes around that to encourage women to come on the workforce and stay there for a longer period. But I personally believe that this is a topic that the MNCs have to look at it. If they are not looking at it, they would be dated very, very fast. It's like you always have an advantage when there's some difference in the herd that you are following, yeah?
Just want to share, actually, I always receive calls from campus recruiter. And recently I get quite a number of calls from campus recruiters that say that, can you send me more female students? We're interested. And I ask them why. I always like to say, give me 10 good reasons why I should send you more women. And one campus recruiter answered, he said, when our IT department have more women, the hygiene factor improved. I don't know whether that is true. I've not checked it out, but I thought that was quite an interesting thought. Yeah. What I was going to ask also is that, suppose I am interested really, like the campus recruiter, wanting to get more female students to join the company, or SMU wanting more women students. Do you have any advice for us? Like, what could we do to attract more female to join?
Actually, we were banking on you guys that you all will have more female candidates so we can recruit more.
Okay. Jaya, you want to share something?
Okay. Basically, what I observed, I went through a series of environments during my schooling, my college, and back when I came back here into Singapore. I come from a very small town in India, and then went into a city. I was there for a while, and then moved into a country like Singapore, which is more technically oriented. So there is a drastic shift of mindset, what I observe, which really impacts the career of the women. The zeal, what I see in them when they are coming out from the school, is to an extent diminished once they get married. The ratio is falling, as I see. That could be due to the background on the family or what kind of stresses they face and all that kind of thing. And then once, suppose if they cross that bridge and they get on with kids, then the insecurity is not only at the family front, but also at the organization where they work. There's a kind of a bias once they take a break and then they come back, and then they are not given the same privilege once they are back in, and then that insecurity makes them move away from there, which sometimes hinder their growths. And then sometimes they feel that they are not able to do what their fellow colleagues as men are able to do. Like, for example, if they have a small baby and then they have to stay out for a late night social gathering for the organization, they would prefer to skip that. And then they come to know that they are going away from the situation to an extent. And then slowly they try to diminish the interest. So what I feel is, if that interest can be inculcated in the women, which arouses the professionalism in that. It's not that they don't have it. Actually, there were situations which proved that they are more capable and concentrated compared to men. But such kind of hurdles actually pull them down. And that's why the ratios keep on decreasing. But if those kind of soft parameters are touched in, I'm sure that that is what shows that those people who could accelerate have overcome those kind of situations. And then
well, I think these are cyclic things. I mean, if you look at what's happening in the Eurozone and what happened before that in the US, at least I'm not surprised that banks may want to trim down some of their costs, yeah? But, I mean, you guys are young and raring to go. You should come out in the workforce and start to look for opportunities. And you will realize over your professional careers, and I have over my 32 years of career, these things are cyclic. So there would be downsizing, there would be upsizing. All this is part of the game. And you've got to be geared for it, yeah? And I'm hoping that if you guys have studied here, you are technically and educationally qualified, and it's just the softer skills and the professional skills that you have to hone after that. But be geared for it. This is all part of the corporate world. This happens day in, day out. Nothing new.